Hey y'all, it's y'all favorite cozy girl, Chi the Reality Queen, and I am back again with another episode of Robe Chronicles. So before we get started, I want to remind you guys to all subscribe to my channel. I mean, where else are you going to hear my thoughts on your favorite reality TV shows? Anyways, let's get into it. Tonight we're going to be talking about Married at First Sight, season 16, Nashville, season finale, part 2. I'm going to start off this with saying that this episode pissed me off real bad. Just point blank, period. They made me really angry. Let me get into it. So we start off with Shaq and Kirsten, who were talking from last episode. And, he's talking about how he didn't think she was good enough and he didn't think he was good enough for her. And so Kevin asked him if he regretted his decision. And this fool had the audacity, okay, I can't even say audacity, I have to say audacity, to say that he regrets it. I'm pretty sure we all remember just 2 episodes ago when he told Jasmine and Eris that he did not regret his decision. I mean, granted, I know there's been a lot of time in between that episode and this episode, but like, you got to stand 10 toes on decisions that you make, right? Especially when they're of this magnitude. Like, you don't want to marry this person, you are divorcing this person. Don't wake up and be like, actually, I regret it. No. So then he said that he would get back together with her. And now that he said this, Kevin is like, so what do you think, Kirsten? Where are you at? And it's like, not too much on my girl, because y'all trying to pressure her. And I don't like it, And when Kevin was doing that, I'm like, okay, Kevin is the host. He's trying to create content, like an engaging show. Maybe this is why he's doing it. And, she says she's done. She's not getting back with him. There's no chance of it. She's very clear. She says it in about 3 different ways that she is done. And he shouldn't have made that decision then if he thought he was going to regret it. Which I love. She says that. It's like, boom. Then they bring out Shaq and Kirsten's moms to talk to them about why they shouldn't have ended their relationship. Excuse me? What are you guys trying to do here? So Shaq's mom immediately comes out and she's kind of like, I really like them together. I wish they were still together. I don't know what they need. Kirsten's mom's pretty much saying the same thing. She's like, there was a communication breakdown, whatever. One thing Kirsten addresses is like, Shaq always talks about wanting to meet my family. She's like, my family is my mom, my dad, my brother, and my sister. Yes, he didn't meet the dad till the end, but he met all of my family. And, for people who don't have big families, it's weird. I have a big family. I have a lot of extended people I know and whatever. So I don't get it. When people tell me like, oh, it's just me and my sister or me and my brother, I'm like, that's it? Y'all ain't got nobody? Like, no uncles, aunties, like cousins? So I get Shaq's idea, but it wasn't even that he wanted to meet them. I guess he was using the wrong term. And see, this is how they have a communication breakdown, because it wasn't about meeting them, it was about constantly being around them. And that's because her family was in Nashville while his family isn't there. So, and he's very big on family, so he's looking like, why aren't we with your family all the time? Which makes sense. That to me actually was like, okay, I understand that. But if you're not clear, then someone can't come to that conclusion, right? If you're saying, oh, I want to meet your family, I want to meet them, you've met them. Like, what more do you want from me? So I see where their breakdowns are happening, but I don't like how they brought their moms out to kind of try and push them towards a relationship again, because you're guilting people. Like, you bring my mama out, I'm going to feel away. Granted, you can't peer pressure me like that, but I do understand how that works on some people, and especially someone like Shaq, who's very close to his mother, and his mom wants them to be together, and Kirsten's close with her mother, it seems, mother. So, that's gonna work. Then what really struck me is they talk about how Kirsten was embarrassed to be seen out with Shaq. And I'm like, dang, is it because she thought he was ugly? But I don't think that was the reason. I think she was embarrassed. And she says it. She said, I was embarrassed because I know a lot of people in Nashville. She is from Tennessee. So she's like, when I go out and people see me with him, they're going to be looking like, oh, that's your man, that's your husband. And then if in 2 months the show, we don't make it, those same people are gonna be like, where's your husband? Didn't you just bring, you was parading him around with the camera and all this stuff? And I kind of get that. But at the same time, it's like, you have signed up to go on national TV to marry a stranger. Didn't you think that was a possibility? Like, you knew you was gonna be in this environment where people would see you, and people are seeing you now. So what's the difference between people seeing you in person during that time versus seeing you 6 months later on TV? I don't know. I get it, but I also don't get it. And I'm like, I can see how Shaq, and it kills me to defend this man, but I can see how he can have mixed signals. Like, girl, you don't want to leave the house with me. Like, what am I supposed to think? You want me to be married to you and love on you and be, everything to you, but you don't want to take me out the house. I get it, okay? I still don't like Shaq, but I get it. Kirsten's mom talks about how she thinks the pressure was just too much for the two of them. The pressure of their expectations, because they both had certain expectations that they had for their partners, like in their mind, and it was just too much for either of them to meet that expectation of the other person. Shaq's mom still calls Kirsten her daughter-in-law, which I think is sweet because, your son ended it. So yeah, that's why you feel like she's really still your daughter-in-law, because your son was the problem. Yeah, your son. But I think it's cute. I don't think she means any harm by it. I'm sure, Kirsten has no problem with her. The mom didn't say no. It was Shaq. And one thing I've noticed is I call him Shaq, everybody calls him Shaq, but Kirsten always calls him Shaquille. I like that. I don't know why. I wish she would explain why she does that. Maybe she doesn't like nicknames, who knows? But I've noticed that she's very intentional in calling him Shaquille whenever she talks about him. And I just always found that to be interesting. And I just feel like after the moms came out and Kevin was talking, I feel like there's a lot of pressure to get them to be together. And I feel like that her no should have been a no. And that should have been enough for them. They should have been like, okay, you said no. That's enough for us. But it wasn't quite, because they don't stop there. Then we get Kevin trying to beg them to go to dinner and just try to talk it out and see where they're at. And, Kirsten agrees. She's like, we can do a dinner, And obviously, I'm sitting here on this couch with you. I haven't seen you in a while. Maybe haven't talked to you in a while. I could sit on the couch with you. I could go to dinner with you. Like, we can chop it up. Like, I think right there, they had done too much, but that was okay. Like, I think if they had stopped there, I'd have been like, they did a lot, but okay. But they didn't stop there. That's not where it ended with this Kirsten and Shaq thing. I'm like, y'all doing too much. But they give him a break, and out comes Dom and Mac. Dom's dress was really ugly. I said it in my last Robe Chronicles. I love the color so much. Like, I thought that emerald was fantastic on her skin. I think if she had an emerald dress, better makeup, better hair, she could have really came out and shined. What she came out with was just terrible. I did not like it at all. But Dom, if you like it, I love it. Okay, girl, do you. Now, if you regret it, please, please, please let us know, because that was, it wasn't good. But yeah, so they were talking, and, it's funny because Kevin was asking them, like, what happened? Like, this was a couple that looked so good in the beginning. Y'all were attracted to each other. You guys were having a good time, kissing, eating food out of each other's mouths or whatever it was, feeding each other, hugging on each other, being very comfy and cozy, you know, like a couple should be. And then it just switched. And one thing Max says is, he's like, you know, I think my personality was just a little bit too much for her. And Dom said that she feels like what was really, really, really high on her list of things was someone who was solid in Nashville. So to get with Mac and start talking to him and finding out that his plans weren't solid in Nashville, she didn't really like that. And Kevin asked, like, were you really willing to stay or were you faking this all? He's asking Mac. And Mac's like, no, I was willing to stay. If I stayed married, I would have stayed in Nashville. And he's like, okay, did you convey that to Dom? No. Now, if this is her biggest point of contention, like I'm not saying other issues weren't there, but if this is her biggest problem with you, why wouldn't you reassure her like, hey, I know we just met and I'm telling you all these things, but the truth is I want to be here with my wife. And if we work out, I will be here through and through. It's only if it doesn't work out that I'm going to explore all my options, which may include going back to Michigan or whatever. And I think that's where Mac failed, right? I also feel that Mac was so easy to let it go. And she says that. She said her intention going into that day was not to just like divorce. But when Mac wasn't like fighting for her and stuff, now I do think that's childish. Like, girl, you just met him 2 weeks ago. He shouldn't be fighting for you. Like, you haven't done anything to make this man sit outside your house with a boombox. Like, I don't understand why you felt that was going to happen. But what I will say is that Mac also gave off an energy that he was done. So if Dom says I'm done and Mac says he's done, I commend Dom for saying there's no point in us faking for the next 6 weeks if we both have decided that we're out of this. She might have given up a little too early, but I see her vision, right? I see it. I see it. It's not like 100%, but I see it. So they showed us that they had like a last dinner, Mac and Dom. And basically at that dinner, Dom was upset that Mac told all his family to unfollow her and all that stuff. And honestly, girl, who cares? Like, it's funny because Dom does a lot of things that are childish. So I know y'all have heard me fight for her not being childish, but she is childish. I'm not saying that she isn't. What I'm saying is that she wasn't as childish as I think people thought she was. But I think that being mad that somebody unfollowed you on Instagram after you initiated a divorce with them is not petty. I think that is very standard. I don't want to see you. I barely even know you, so there really isn't any reason for me to build anything with you. So I thought it was weird that she was so petty about that. I mean, Mac was being rude. Mac was being a little aggressive. And I think Mac just felt rejected. Like, I still stand by the fact that I think he was chasing MAFS around for the past 3 seasons. And when he finally got on, he was mad he didn't get the big break that he thought he was going to get. But I do feel for him in the sense that you shouldn't expect anything from someone that you told you don't want to be with. Like, you should be like, I don't know you, and let's go our separate ways. Like, whatever filming we have to do for the show, let's do it. But please understand, there's nothing here. But yeah, so she was like, she said she was shocked. Like, why is he acting funny? This was a mutual divorce. Was it though? Like, it's mutual because you said you wanted a divorce. But was it mutual in that you guys both said, hey, we're coming into this meeting to get a divorce? Not quite. But I will say, in Mac's defense, he came to this reunion being very apologetic. willing to hear people out, willing to listen. So that with the Dom situation actually rubbed me the right way with Mac, because I feel like he's done a lot of rubbing me the wrong way, but I feel like in this situation he really started rubbing me the right way. I liked how he was very much like taking accountability for the things that he did and being rude and maybe being a little aggressive and mean towards Dom when really she didn't really deserve all that. So I appreciate that from him. Then Dom lets us know that she's dating a little man. Max said he's just dating generally. But Dom isn't like exclusive with the person that she's dating. What shocks me then is they bring out Mac and Gina together. I'm like, why are y'all trying to push this? See, this really pissed me off, actually. So not just them trying to force Kirsten to get back with Shaq. That's not the only thing that pissed me off. What also pissed me off is they're trying to give this Gina-Mac situation shine when they only went on one date. One date. That's it. Mind you, based on what Nicole said, that they were planning Thanksgiving, this date had to be in like November, right? Or maybe even October, who knows? This reunion, part 2, or, the reunion was probably taped in like March. So you're telling me you went on one date in November, didn't go on another date, and you want to come to reunion and act like there's something going on? I'm not a fool, okay? Like, there are fools who exist. I am not one of them. Those are two people who felt like, if we can get along with someone else and show that we get along with someone else, then people won't believe that we were the problems in our respective relationships. Gina wants to look like somebody that's dateable. So she's trying to be like, oh, I'm so attracted to Mac. It was just Clint was ugly. But look at me. I think Mac is so hot and this, and he finds me hot, and we're such... Y'all don't like each other. You're not going on one date in 5 months with someone that you think is so sexy, so hot, and you really like, and you have a lot of chemistry with. Like, save me, because y'all playing with my time. Like, I didn't like that. Like, they were like, oh, what about a second date? And Gina's like, ask him. So y'all didn't go. Why are we here? Why are they sitting next to each other on the couch? Mac doesn't like her, and she don't like Mac. Because y'all not, like, here's the thing. Gina already says she's somebody that likes to be pursued. I agree with her. There's a lot of people, women specifically, who like to be pursued. So I'm on that train. But if you know that about her and you're not actively pursuing her, you playing in her face. And you playing in all our faces. And that's why Mac kind of pissed me off again. Because I'm like, why are you even doing that? Like, I don't even... This is fake. I think it's just an extra thing that they added to get some stuff to be talked about. I don't know. It just, to me, it didn't make sense. I wasn't a fan. Absolutely not a fan of them even bringing them out to talk to them separately, because there was nothing going on. And Kevin is over here begging begging Mac to take Gina out while they're in LA. He's like, oh, yeah, when we're here, when we get back to Tennessee, I'm going to be there for a little bit. Y'all both in the same place right now. Why won't you go out with her? Because he don't want to. He trying to put it off so when the time comes, it won't be on camera and he don't got to do it. Like, it's just silly. It's just a lot, and I feel like production is really trying to force things, and I'm not someone that likes to watch forced interactions, and that to me seemed like such a forced interaction. I didn't really care for it. And then one thing Gina did that pissed me off is she had the audacity, again, not audacity, she had the audacity to call Mac stylish. Mac don't dress better than Clint. Those are two people who dress very similarly. I'm sorry, they're very similar. Mac is also very reddish in the face and in this. Him and Clint probably have the same color hair, the same kind of complexion. Like, I'm actually sick over it. Maybe because he doesn't have facial hair, maybe she likes somebody more clean cut. I don't know. But Mac and Clint ain't too far off from brothers. Okay? Like, that conclusion could be made about the two of them. So Gina was doing a lot for a little. I don't like it. But yeah, so then all the guys came out to talk to Kevin. It's interesting because, you know, they're like, oh, we're all still really cool and we hang out. But when they went boating on Clint's boat, Mac wasn't there. He's like, oh, it just so happened Mac wasn't there. Just so happened, or you don't like him. Right? Could be both. I'm not saying that he's jealous that Mac is dating Gina. He might just not like who Mac is. And that's a possibility. I feel like they always try to say like, oh, all of these people are so close because they went through this experience. And yeah, that's cool. That's cool. But you also might not like somebody just because you're doing the same thing as them. There's plenty of people I work with. There's plenty of people I went to school with. There's plenty of people who have a lot of similar interests as me, but I'm not cool with them. Like the fact that they try to push this, oh, you guys are so close because you all married strangers. Like, no, I don't have to hang out with you. But if you want to, and I want to, then I think that they should. But then they asked, what's it called? The guys all about Shaq's situation in which Kirsten asked them to buy the house. And I feel like all the guys were on Shaq's side, but Mac brought up a good point. It is in a man's nature to want to take care of a woman and provide for her, right? If you're that type of man, which is funny because I feel like people were dragging my girl Kirsten, but men also want to be providers and they want women that are going to be in their feminine and whatever. And Kirsten wanted to be that girly. She wanted to cook. She wanted to clean. She wanted to do laundry. She wanted to take care of a household. And yes, she might have been joking, but wanting a man to provide a home comes with that other territory. If you want your girl to be in her feminine and do things around the home and be more like a housewife, you gotta provide the house. Okay, y'all hear that? If you want a housewife, you have to provide the house. Okay? I'm not saying that you can't go 50-50. I'm not saying that you can't have a relationship like that and still get a housewife. You absolutely can. However, life is life, and not many people might want to go along with that. But I still don't think that Kirsten was crazy. I think she might have been joking. She might have been, you know, there's jokes and truth, right? Like there's truth in jokes, sorry. And so maybe she would have loved for Shaq to do that, but I don't think it's a requirement. She is a working girly. She's a real estate agent. She sells homes. I'm pretty sure she could have put something on it, right? And worked towards it. But I think, you know, all the men agreed. But I think, to be honest, a lot of the men probably would want to do that for their women, except for Chris. Chris seems like a 50-50 kind of guy. No shade. He just seems like a 50-50 kind of guy. I mean, we all know Shaq is a 50-50 kind of guy too. But I think Clint and Mac want to be head of household, buying a house. Even though Clint tried to say that he didn't, I think that the men try to cover for the men a little bit and be on their side. So that's what they did with Shaq. So yeah. Then he talks to Eris. Kevin talks to Eris about having sex, or having a sexless marriage, actually. Like, how was it that before you even met your wife, the most important thing to you was having sex, but after getting married, you didn't want to have no sex? And Eris was honest. Like, I didn't want her to believe there was more to that relationship because of sex than there was. So as much as y'all don't like Eris, I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm not saying he's great, but I do think that there are certain principles that Eris stood on that I absolutely agree with. And there is no reason to be having sex with that girl when you know good and well that you will never want to be with her. There was no reason. We were so mad at Chris when he did it to Paige. So why would we want to see Eris do that to Jasmine? Just because we think she's pretty or we think she looks okay, whatever the case may be, I don't agree. He saw what happened. He must have seen what happened with Chris, because he was like, absolutely not. I'm not going to put myself in that position. And I commend him for that. I'm on his side. Whereas, funny enough, Clint and Gina, I do think they should have had sex. I think that sex would have actually helped them, because Gina was acting really standoffish and weird. And they were both like, oh, we're not attracted to each other. But they were both more willing to get to know the other person, I guess. That's how I felt about them. Whereas I feel like Eris was so adamantly like, she is not cute to me. This is never going to happen. Versus Clint and Gina, where I feel like, I feel like if somebody had taken that initiative for them to get a little less sexy time, they would have been on and popping. I truly believe that. Before, they also asked the guys like about Mac and Gina. I mean, yeah, and if that was violating bro code, and Clint didn't think so, and none of the guys thought so. But Shaq also said he would never do that. Like, it might not be a violation, but it's still kind of effed up, right? Like, she's still, they were still married. Like, you didn't even give it no time for real to be like, oh, 6 months later, I'm realizing I like this person that was on the show with me. No, it was like, boom. But I appreciate Clint's like whatever about it. And then they asked them about the craziest DMs that they were getting, and women were sending Shaq DMs talking about they would lick his bald head. Mac was getting DMs about people talking about drinking his bath water. Chris's DMs is clothes. Clint was getting DMs about people wanting to get on the boat with him, and lots of support, which we all kind of expected. I think that Eris didn't get to talk about his DMs because I'm sure it's a bunch of girls in there cussing him out for his behavior towards Jasmine, which is what I wanted to do too. But I don't DM people like that. No, I wouldn't have cussed him out. Like I said, I think he had the principles that he stood on that I agreed with. Sorry guys, my dog has come. He wants to join the chat. Sorry, Doge has entered the chat. No, don't lick me. I have my facial cream on. Doge has entered the chat. Let me put him down so we can get back to it. Come on, Rocky, come on. Okay, so I'm back. Then the experts come out to talk to a couple of the couples. And first they talk about themselves. But y'all, guess who has finally solidified her spot? Dr. Pia. I like her. I feel like she's very real. She's very honest and very direct. And I hope she doesn't lose that in being on this show. I hope the producers don't ask her to tone it down. She is really like, I love where she comes from, and I feel like she's usually pretty spot on with her analysis and what she's saying about the couples. So I really was happy to see her on the reunion, and I'm really happy to see that she's going to be moving forward with Married at First Sight. It actually might be a reason for me to continue watching, because I was ready to give up. So I'm very happy to see her there. So, the experts are talking about basically that it's hard to pick couples and people that are attracted and blah, 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 blah. Basically a lot of excuses. But one of the things that really bothered me is that they did not discuss the fact that they purposely give people spouses with attributes that they said are 100% no's, i.e. Kirsten with a bald guy, Alyssa with someone with bad teeth, Eris with somebody that's super skinny. Like, people have been very clear on things that they don't like, and then you match them and hope that they work out. That to me is like, why don't you talk about that part of your failure as, the experts? And I feel like maybe they're having a hard time defending themselves because production plays a huge part in who gets matched, because they're looking for entertainment. Like, yes, 5 happy couples would be great, but drama and entertainment sells. So I think production probably comes in and shuffles things up a bit just to kind of give us a good time as viewers. But what's happening now is us viewers, we not having a good time. We don't want to see these couples fail miserably. I'm not saying that it can't be like, oh, I thought these two people would work and they didn't, i.e. Clint and Gina, because I was sure they would work. But it's like, you are purposely matching people with stuff that they said, I don't like this, I prefer this, this is what I want. And then you go and match them with someone of the opposite. It's kind of weird, it's kind of whack to me. So then they bring out Dom and Mac to talk to the experts, and they're basically saying how, they didn't give it a chance. They didn't have a real chance to get off the ground, and they were disappointed in that. And, a lot of stuff is said, but ultimately, Dom starts crying, talking about how she feels like a failure. I feel that her tears came from the internet, the trolls, the people saying all these things about her. And so hearing Dr. Pepper say like, hey, you still have a shot of finding someone and you have these good qualities and these good attributes, I think that probably was emotional for her, because I'm not saying that she isn't strong, but at some point, I mean, I'm on Twitter too. I know what people are saying to her and about her, and it has to be tough, It has to be pretty tough to deal with that and then think like, okay, well, I'm a failure. I ended this too early, blah, blah, blah. It has to be pretty tough. I definitely see that and believe that. But, I feel bad for her in that sense, but not like bad enough to be like, hey, you didn't F up at all, because she did. But I definitely do think that she, was crying because of that. To hear that she still has value in the experts' eyes, despite ending her relationship early, I think that meant a lot to her. Then they brought out Carson and Shaq again. And literally, I feel like they only brought them out to pressure them to get back together. And this is what really started to make me angry, because she is conclusively saying that that's not what she wants. And because they keep pressuring her and trying to get her to change her mind, I feel like she's becoming more amenable to the topic, or to getting back with Shaq. Like, maybe she's not, but because she's now being pressured by 4 people, Kevin, Dr. Pia, Dr. Pepper, Pastor Cal, she's kind of like, and then Shaq sitting there, and they're just kind of like, come on, what is it? What is it that you want? What can he say to make you go back with him? What does he have to do? What is it that she wants? What can you give her? And it's just like so much. Like, I was, as a viewer, I felt very overwhelmed by that segment. Like, I was like, whoa, you got, like, she can't even like think on it. Like, you're not giving her an opportunity to even think. Like, it couldn't have been me, because I'd have been like, no, I will never get back with him, ever. And the fact that you guys are over here trying to pressure me, I would rather end it all than to even sit here with him. This interview is over. Like, it made me cringe watching that, because they were really like, right here, right now, what is it that he has to do? Nothing. There's nothing he can do, because I never want to be with this man again. It made me so angry, because I knew, like, in my core, I would have lost it, because I can't handle that type of peer pressure. Like, I can handle it. It's not going to make me change my mind, but it would have pissed me off that people are using a camera and 4 people to try and convince me to do something that I have very clearly told people I don't want to do. It's manipulative, really. I mean, and she started crying like, this is why I didn't even want to come here. And it's like, y'all don't see it. Like, you guys are pushing her into this, and I didn't like it at all. Like, oh, just to go to the go to dinner, do this. And one thing Dr. Pia said, which I'm like, okay, I'm not saying it's not good advice, but in this moment where it's like a pressure, like, it's not good. Like, she was like, remove the guesswork of what you need. Say it exactly what it is that you need. I get that. But that could have been said like when you guys have your moment or your conversation. Remove that guesswork. Leave it all out on the table, But one thing I love that Carson said in response to that, as she was listening to things that she needed, was, I am not someone to play with. And I was like, yes, I really like her. I really like Kirsten. I'm sorry. I think her personality post decision day has been one of my favorites. Love her. Because I agree. She's not someone to be playing with. Like, I was here to get married. Maybe I wasn't attracted to you initially, but I worked through my problems to get here and find solace in you, and you couldn't do that for me. Granted, there was a lot of miscommunication, a lot of problems, and that's why, me personally, I think those two people should never get together, because they clearly have very different communication styles, different love languages, different so many things that it really just clashes, and that's why they're clashing. They're not clashing because they're perfect soulmates, but they're clashing because they just can't get to that point. They're clashing because they're really different people with different ideals and move differently. You know, you guys are just looking at two successful people and saying, oh, they should be a power couple, but they shouldn't be together, right? But yeah, so I just, that segment, it was cringe watching it. I didn't want to see it. I wish they wouldn't have done that to that girl. Really upset me. And I feel like, Shaq, you're benefiting from this because if she takes you back, whatever, but it's like, you gotta be like, hey, you know, we're gonna talk about this in our own time when we have a chance, and kind of shut it down. But you're like, what? Yes, what is it? Give me an answer so I can move on. Like, I didn't like that. Then they bring out the entire cast, you know, to wrap things up, to close it out. They talk about the kiss between Dom and Clint, and they were like, oh, it's just because it was a dare. And I 100% believe that. I 100% believe Dom is someone that if you dare her to do something, that girl's gonna follow through. But I do think that if Dom was a bit slimmer, I think Clint could have given her a chance. You know, I think that could have been a couple, because, you know, we know he doesn't like girls that are thicker. So it would have never worked. But I do think that if Dom was the size of Jasmine, excuse me, that could have been a good couple. I stand by it. I think they're very similar in the way they move, because one, Clint would have never let Dom walk out. You see the way he was working so hard with Gina. Not that he was putting in a lot of effort, but I do think that he would have worked harder to be like, no, I'm not gonna divorce you. Like, I think we should stick this through. And I think that would have been good for someone like Dom, right? Then they talk about Nicole. They get on her a little bit for talking too much, for being in everybody's business. Everybody's like, oh, it's from a place of love. And I'm not saying that it's not, but it's still annoying. Just because you do something out of love doesn't make it any less annoying. Like, Nicole, sorry. And I mean, at least she can acknowledge that she knows she can be annoying. That's why I do like Nicole. Or I can, you know, because I feel like Nicole is a little bit more honest with herself, right? Sometimes it's a little bit too honest and too deprecating, self-deprecating, but she is honest with herself. Yes, you're asking a lot of questions. It's very annoying, but, you know, I like that you can acknowledge that. Then they get on Kirsten for not telling them about her and Shaq having sex, because they all feel like, Jasmine especially, was like, girl, we had a whole conversation and you were telling us the things that Shaq could do to get you into the bedroom, not knowing he's already gotten you into the bedroom. And I have no thoughts. Girl, it's not y'all business. Like, I know this is a show about people getting married and going through that process, but like, when she's ready to tell you, she'll tell you. But I do think if Jasmine is your friend, that's your girl, then you could have told her like off camera and be like, girl, but I'm trying to, you know, keep it under wraps. But it was just funny because everybody was trying to help Shaq get them there, right? Like, oh, Kirsten said this is all she needs. They're all telling their husband. The husbands are all telling Shaq, like, hey, we heard this is all you need. Kirsten is ripe and ready for the picking. And it's like, he's like, I've already smashed. Like, me and my wife have done this. Like, but it's, you know, he's getting all of that from people, but it's like, oh, can we just tell him? And I guess that's why he got fed up and finally just told everybody, which I agree with. Then they were like trying to get, once again, Kirsten and Shaq peer pressured into getting back together because Kevin tells the group, oh, let's talk about what the experts talked with them about and where they're at. And I'm just like, this is really getting to be too much. And I feel like Nicole, for once, saw those cues and was like, okay, let's not have this conversation. Like, despite her being a huge advocate for the two of them, I think she saw it and was like, okay, Kirsten's getting a little uncomfortable. Let's not get on this topic again. And she kind of was like, yeah, let's, when they get in their own time and are able to, you know, do all this, then whatever. So I do appreciate, like I said, Nicole has her moments. She be coming through a little bit, and sometimes she's annoying, but this was one of the times that she came through. And she came through for Kirsten, because I was like, if Kevin does it, like, I seriously was like wanting to get in the screen and like slap him, because I'm like, stop doing this to this girl. Leave her alone. She doesn't want to be with him, or she does, who knows, but just did it. I don't know. Then they go through like some old clips that are never before seen, some funny, some not so funny. I didn't really care for them. Then they gave us a preview of the next season that's going to be in Denver. Obviously didn't show any faces. Then they asked them what they learned from the situation. Honestly, I think there is a lot of growth, and I don't know if it's growth from the situation, but there is growth in watching yourself, right? So like, but like from an out of body experience, right? Like, you were on a show, you finished the show, probably didn't learn anything, but then you got to watch back all your actions, and then you're like, maybe I wasn't that, or maybe I could have, or I would have been better off. And I think that's where people learn. And I think every time the growth is after watching yourself do a lot of crazy things that you thought were normal, but then watching it and then also getting feedback from online. Like, I remember after the reunion, at the reunion from Boston, Elijah was like, I was tripping. I was acting a fool. I'm not saying that he took full responsibility, but he did realize, like, the comments from people plus watching himself back, he did too much. So I think it's really important, not just going through this process. Like, I'm sure the process does something, but just watching yourself. And maybe if your edit is bad, yeah, your edit is bad, but it's like, why do they have so many situations of you doing this thing or saying stuff a certain way or whatever? That means that on some level, this is who you are. So I do think that that's where these people learn. They don't learn until they watch themselves back and then read people's feedback online, Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, Instagram, wherever. And I think that's where they're like, I was tripping. And yeah, and that's where they learn. But I'm just glad that this season is over. I mean, it's not really over. There's one more episode, y'all. I thought this was it. I thought this was the last time y'all were gonna see me do a Robe Chronicles for Married at First Sight Nashville. But apparently there's a Where Are They Now episode, and I will be back again next week. I'm kind of excited, not so much for the couples, I don't really care, but seeing that Dominique feels left out, I'm like, okay, what happened? Is she left out because she's young? Is she left out because Gina dated Mac now? Like, why are they leaving old girl out? Like, is it because she tacky? I'd like to know. I mean, I'm gonna watch it anyway, so now I'm like, let me just see what's going on, because you know, we're at that point, right? And I hope you guys will join me next week to figure out what the heck is going on and where are they now? What's going on with them? Yeah. We'll get to the end soon, guys. I'm not going to do that TA to Z episode unless it's really good. And I'm not going to do a look back episode because they have done too much. They have been on my TV for almost 6 months now. And at some point, we have to say enough is enough. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I will see you guys next week. Have a good night. Bye.